Welcome to the Dynasty Trade Calculator podcast. We've got a phenomenal show. This is a special edition for you. This is the DTC NFL Draft Edition. This is awesome. This is the first time we brought you some video, so we're really excited about this as well. We're sitting here right across the street from Draft Town. This is pretty phenomenal. We got a great pre-show for you just to kind of go through some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today in the draft. I'm your host, the co-owner and creator of the Dynasty Trade Calculator, John Paul Hurley, in case you haven't heard that once before. Sitting next to me once again is my co-host. His name is Izzy Alcafast, a.k.a. the Pharaoh of Fantasy. Izzy, what's going on, dude?
Not much. Living the dream here.
This is awesome, isn't it?
It is awesome.
By the way, how about that intro? How phenomenal is it? It's like the most epic intro I've ever seen in my entire life.
It was very phenomenal.
It's epic. I think the only word we can use to describe it is epic. Today's show in the preview here we got set for you. We're going to go through each position. We're going to go through quarterbacks, talk about some that might sneak into the first round. We're going to try to keep things focused on the first round for you. We're going to talk about running backs. We're going to go through wide receivers. We're going to go through like a little bit of a hot seat type of segment. So those of you that have been with us since the beginning, we're going to turn the clocks back and talk a little bit about some of the hot seat stuff and some specific questions. We're going to have a special guest joining us for that. We're pretty excited about that as well. So with that, let's get started right with things. What do you think?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. So starting right off with quarterbacks, so first round specifically, we all know that Goff and Wentz are going to be the guys taken in the first round, if not 1 and 2 overall. What are some other quarterbacks that you see that might actually slide into the first round, some maybe surprise ones? Like 3 years ago, Christian Ponder, this one's Teddy Bridgewater, I know, but Christian Ponder went in the first round, kind of a surprise a few years back for the Vikings. We're still, shower crying over this, but what are some that you see might sneak into the first round?
Yeah, it's kind of into that mold, like the E.J. Manuel and the Christian Ponder, which are both Florida State guys. But Paxton Lynch might be that guy that isn't deserving of being a first-round pick, or at least a high first-round pick that might sneak into that top end of the draft. The issue is all you hear is news coming out that now teams aren't in love with him because he had a poor interview. So does that drop him out of the first round? I don't think so. I think there's going to be enough quarterback needy teams that are willing to have a project that they can stuff back there. Look at the Cardinals, for example. Can they afford to go into another offseason with nothing behind Carson Palmer?
He's got like 5 or 6 years left, though.
Yeah, so he's gonna be 55.
50, yeah, that's the retirement age, right?
So they need somebody to kind of get ready to take the wings, and if Paxton isn't ready in terms of his maturity, maybe tuck him behind a veteran quarterback, let him learn the ropes, let him grow, and then hopefully you have your quarterback of the future. I think Paxton's probably the only guy that will sneak into the first round. I guess you can't really say sneak because he's kind of projected to be there. But I don't think Connor Cook should not be. Hackenberg, I don't understand the Hackenberg thing. If you watch any of his film, he's not even. I understand when quarterbacks are sometimes accurate with their passing, but he is like never accurate with his passing. And I get the offense was poor, and he slowly had a worse and worse. 2013, 2014, 2015, he's regressed. So that's not a good sign. Will teams be enamored with his upside? He's got the physical. He's got the big arm. He's physically ready for the NFL, but I wouldn't take him in the first round. I think that's too steep. And then Cardale Jones is another guy that might get a look late in the first, but I think all those guys won't crack it. I think there's some depth in this draft, like heavy depth in terms of first round talent at other positions that I think those guys will safely fall into the second round.
That's a good breakdown. Now, just kind of a follow-up question for you. There's rumors about Paxton Lynch maybe falling to Buffalo. What would you think that would mean to guys like Tyrod Taylor and things?
Paxton Lynch is not ready, in my opinion. It was weird. There was like this December, January, where maybe even a little earlier, a lot of people got excited about Paxton Lynch, and I wasn't 100% on board. He kind of had the Blake Bortles effect where came out of nowhere, people got excited. The difference is Blake Bortles kind of sustained that. He killed the interviews, and he just showed well. He showed maturity, which I think Paxton Lynch didn't do. And that's kind of what's his big issue is. I don't think he's ready to headline a franchise. He needs a couple years of development. If he can't go into a job interview, the biggest job interview of his life, and not impress people with just normal conversation, that says all you need to know about a guy.
That's true. I mean, the NFL needs another Lynch with Marshawn Lynch retiring, so Paxton needs to come. But blowing interviews sucks. You're kind of blowing this one right now, actually.
Yeah, sorry.
We're gonna probably let's just cut that. I'm just kidding. So next question. That was a good breakdown of the quarterbacks. Let's go right into the running back. So first round specifically, there's a clear cut number one. I like to call him the prophet because his name is Ezekiel. I'm a Christian guy, so kind of in the Bible that way. I apologize if I'm offending you for that. I don't apologize. Sorry, not sorry. Outside of Ezekiel, what kind of running backs do you see that might fall into the first round? I think there's a handful of them. Can you give us like a highlight of a couple different ones?
See, I don't know. I don't think any of them sneak into the first round. I personally think Derrick Henry, if in the right situation, has first round talent, has first round upside. I think his negatives are overblown just because they're glaring. But outside of him, I don't see the Kenneth Dixons of the world. I don't see Devontae Bookers. I don't see the Jordan Howards cracking into that first round.
So you'd be completely shocked if one of those guys?
I would be stunned if anybody outside of Derrick Henry got a sniff in the first round. And I'd actually be a little surprised if Derrick Henry made it in the first round.
So you heard it. I think the Patriots are drafting Derrick Henry in the first round. Patriots are not drafting in the first round.
Here's the thing. If Derrick Henry, quick hot seat, put you on the hot seat. If Derrick Henry goes to the Patriots, what happens to his dynasty value?
Well, I think anybody that goes to the Patriots lose dynasty value instantly because of Bill Belichick's system. But I am an advocate for Deion Lewis. You probably see me fighting Twitter battles over it, and there's been a big dynasty debate over what his value is as far as picks are concerned. If he goes to the Patriots, Blunt's coming back, so he kind of takes that first two downs kind of 1-2 punch away. So I don't really have a lot of faith in Blunt long term, so I think that he could be a good answer for them in the early down situations. But I mean, Deion's there to kind of hawk all of the receptions, the passing down situations, right. And those people that are Patriots fans, I'm looking at my director because he's a big Patriots fan, know that the Patriots are often in the passing down situation. So I think it'd be pretty brutal for his value personally.
And what's funny is I guarantee there's a huge following that would actually say his value would skyrocket just because it's the Patriots. And whenever somebody puts first round equity into a running back, they tend to look at T-Rich. I mean, I know I think he was 4th overall. I mean, that guy he's still getting shots even today. So who knows? I mean, I would like to see something happen like that where, Derrick Henry goes to the Cowboys or goes to a franchise that people are just always going to flock to in terms of value. Oh, he's automatically got a value bump. And I'd like to see what that does to somebody's value. Would he go 102 right after Zeke?
Yeah, I don't know. And I never placed the Patriots as far as Holy Land for running backs just because Belichick's always been really confusing with the way that he uses running backs. So I don't know that necessarily that's a great landing spot for any running back, especially considering that they've already re-signed all their guys. Deion's coming back off injury. Who knows what the heck is going on with James White? They also signed Donald Brown. So this is a really confusing situation for any running back in a rookie situation to come into there. So
fair enough.
Let's move on to the wide receivers. What do you think? So wide receivers are a very interesting one because there's been a lot of jostling. There's been a lot of movement up front, specifically with Laquan Treadwell, Doxson. There's been a lot of differing opinions on these guys and which ones are more talented. Every single time I go to the reports, I go to Roto, I go to any sort of news articles, I see a different opinion on these guys. So it's kind of one of those weird situations where anybody could take the top spot. Anybody could go to any team, but specifically around the first round, what are some of the wide receivers that you see that might slip into the first round? Let's say outside of Laquan Treadwell and Doxson.
So outside of Treadwell and Doxson and Coleman, those three are guaranteed. It really depends on the team needs late in the first round, and there's a huge void for that deep vertical threat. So I can see Will Fuller getting into the first round. I've seen a lot of mock drafts with him there. I don't like Will Fuller as a prospect, especially as a first-round prospect in both an NFL draft and a rookie draft. Tyler Boyd's another guy that might get in late in the first round, and Michael Thomas. So I think there's 6 receivers that could potentially go in the first round. Sterling Shepard's a day 2 guy to me. I think he's going to be stuck in the slot at the next level. That's kind of something I've been on that bandwagon for a while, and I think more and more information is coming out that NFL teams are seeing that he's going to be stuck in the slot at the next level as well. So I think those 6 have the best shot. Those 3 outside of Coleman, Doxson, and Treadwell. Will Fuller seems like it's almost guaranteed. Every mock draft's got him in there. And then Boyd and Michael Thomas are fringe late first round guys.
For our next segment, we're welcoming a special guest, Dave Angeluzzi, editor for Dynasty Trade Calculator. Dave, welcome to the show.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Really excited. You guys have a first-rate operation. I really appreciated the green room. I'm going to be honest, though. I think it's a bathroom. I don't think it's an official green room, but I appreciate you letting me out and letting you join here today.
It wasn't green before you got in there, I'll just say that. But let's get right into it. This next portion of the segment, we're going to break down each receiver or each position inside the draft, and we're going to talk about some players that might actually be losing values on teams by being impacted by the first round here. So I'm going to start things off with Dave, just since I just introduced you. I think that's appropriate. Let's talk about quarterbacks. So give me one or two quarterbacks. And by the way, this is a hot seat type of format, so I'm going to give you guys one or two names to talk about. Give me like a brief couple sentences on what your explanation is, and then we'll move on to the next guy. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Cool. So quarterbacks to start with. Give me one or two quarterbacks that you got that might be impacted by the draft today in the first round.
Well, I got to be honest. I'm really concerned about Tyrod Taylor. The Bills have not signed him to an extension. They've sent out a lot of signals that they're looking to acquire a quarterback in the first round. Paxton Lynch, Hackenberg's been mentioned. They're definitely going to go quarterback at some point, maybe as early as the first round. If you own Tyrod Taylor, you should definitely be trying to get rid of him, recoup his value, because as soon as he gets usurped by a rookie, it's going to be tough to move him. So I'm looking at Tyrod Taylor. I know we've talked about RG3, whatever value he has now as a pseudo starting quarterback. The Browns may end up moving on from RG3, and you're going to want to be able to try and get whatever you can from him, because he's either not going to perform or he's going to get Wally pipped. So RG3 and Tyrod Taylor are two guys that I'm looking to move before the draft.
I got to say, four of us DTC guys were having breakfast this morning. We sat right next to a representative from the Buffalo Bills, and half of me wanted to reach out just to strangle the guy because I don't understand the hate that the Buffalo Bills have for Tyrod Taylor. I'm a Tyrod Taylor owner, and it's really difficult for me to see this happening. I would recommend a sell right now personally, but part of me wants to hold on to him just to see if this is not real, if it's smoke and mirrors. Like we talked about in the podcast last week with Chris Harris, a lot of the stuff that's happening right now is just rumors, it's smoke and mirrors. These teams have no real good reason to talk about them needing a quarterback or them needing a position. A lot of times it's to throw other teams off, throw other GMs off, just to make picks to stretch out and get something that they didn't really need. Easy quarterbacks. Did you have any that you had on your radar?
Yeah, the big issue is I agree with both of those, just because of the hearsay. And if the Bills are going out and saying they don't like somebody, that typically means they don't like somebody. Clear my throat for Jay Ajayi. Even though that was we did talk about the news that Gase was surprised with how he showed. The issue is there's not many quarterbacks that actually have value that could lose their jobs. Obviously, Sam Bradford, who really is going to pay for Sam Bradford in Dynasty? Unless you're in a 2-quarterback league, maybe he's obviously got some value, but you might as well hold on to him to see where he goes. Mark Sanchez. But once again, who really is putting any value in Mark Sanchez? So really the only two guys that I think are at serious risk for devaluation that may have some sort of value in a 1-quarterback league are the two that Dave mentioned.
That makes sense. And I think Mark Sanchez is leading the league in butt fumbles for his career. I don't think that's a specific Dynasty fantasy football stat that you can go off of. So let's just move into running backs, because quarterbacks is a little bit boring, as we talked about a little bit before we started recording. So we struggled to come up with some of the names that might be impacted by first round, since it's so top heavy. So running back specifically, I'm going to start things off with you, Izzy. So give me a couple running backs that you kind of feel like might have the same level of impact in the first round here. What are some guys that might lose value after the first day of the NFL draft?
This is also tough, because I think Zeke's the only guy that really has first round impact. I mean, like we mentioned, Derrick Henry might sneak into the first round. So if I'm looking at the teams in the top 15, my biggest worry is the Bears, and that's Jeremy Langford. I think it makes the most sense. We look at the teams, the Cowboys. Might be a little early for Zeke. You look at the Ravens; they have a lot more glaring needs than just a running back. How transcendent do they feel Zeke is? I'm not a believer that Zeke is as good as the Gurleys and the APs and like those elite running backs. So I think his value is more 8 to 12, 8 to 13 than it is top 6, 7, or top 6 or 7. So I would say Langford. The Bears probably need a running back more than any of those other teams ahead of them. So I think they take a crack at him. And I'm not a Langford guy to begin with. I was impressed with his rookie season. Some people were. He's a complementary back. He's a guy that might be able to spell a first and second down back. He might be able to guy that could help in the passing game, but he's not a guy that I would put any value in terms of, here, let me hand you the ball 15, 20 times a game and let's see what you can do. I don't think he has that sort of talent. So I think Zeke going to the Bears is very likely.
That makes sense. There's some people that believe that Zeke is actually a better talent than Gurley, so I'd be curious to see how this is going to pan out, but it seems a little bit absurd. And by the way, if we're talking about Langford this way, we're literally sitting in downtown Chicago, so we got to keep our voices down a little bit because we might be rioted if we talk about Langford that way. So, Dave, do you have any running backs that have you on your radar that might actually see some value dip after the draft?
I do. As Izzy said, there's not a lot of talk about more than one running back going in the first round. However, a team that I think bucks conventional wisdom, a team that zigs when it should zag, a team that drafts Christine Michael in the second round and also throws from the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl as time is running down, is the Seattle Seahawks. They have Thomas Rawls, who a lot of people love in the offseason, and there's been a lot of talk about him being one of the top backs next season in Dynasty, a top 5 guy. He's coming off a major injury. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks went late in the first round and grabbed Derrick Henry to be their new Marshawn Lynch and just power running game in the NFC West. So if you can sell Rawls for 2 first rounders, maybe get a second or somebody who's really a Rawls truther, I would do it, because if the first round unfolds and the Seahawks pull out that card and it says Derrick Henry, that Rawls value is going to plummet really quickly. So if you can jump on the Rawls train, sell him if you have him, get what you can, and rest easy tonight.
Yeah, and Thomas Rawls does have some pretty significant value. In fact, I think in the trade calculator, he's being valued right around the 105, and that's pretty good price for him. But if that does happen, if that scenario pans out, his value will plummet severely. It's going to be kind of a dangerous situation. From that, moving right into the wide receivers, I'm going to start things off with Izzy on this one. Wide receivers specifically are kind of a more interesting take in this draft because it seems to be a little bit deeper of a class than any other position as far as fantasy offense is concerned. Wide receivers are, as I look at this draft, and I keep seeing, we're talking a lot about the first round, this might be one of the most thin drafts I've ever seen at a fantasy relevant type of position in the first round, at least. So wide receivers is the more deeper of the 3 positions, but give us some good nuggets on guys that you might want to bail out on within the next couple of hours before the draft begins. Otherwise, you're stuck with these guys. Give us some good nuggets on receivers.
For me, I think the main guy is our boy Diggs. So the big thing is there's a lot of teams that need receivers in the first round, but the teams that need receivers typically have a really good one. Like you look at OBJ, you look at DeAndre Hopkins, those 2 guys, sure, they may see a decrease in targets, especially DeAndre Hopkins if they get a first round talent there, but they're still elite prospects. You look at Diggs, he's a slot guy, and last year Charles Johnson was hurt. Teddy Bridgewater throws a medicine ball as a deep ball. Like that thing, it's not good. I think he was bottom 5 in terms of efficiency down the field. So for me, Mike Wallace had no value. So when you see mock drafts putting in like a Will Fuller or a Corey Coleman going to the Vikings, that's absurd. If that happens, Diggs is going to be fine. But if they take a Doxson or a Treadwell, instead of Diggs being 1A, he's going to slide and be the second option. Whereas these other teams that need receivers, those guys are going to be the 1, and somebody's going to slide in and be the 2. So Diggs would be my first sell.
That really stinks. Being a homer, I like to see Diggs thrive in the offense. But the fact is that there's some great talent coming out of the draft in the first round, specifically where the Vikings are drafting. So I could see that scenario panning out. Specifically Treadwell, that's kind of my take. I want to see that happen tonight. So, Dave, wide receivers, what do you got for us?
Well, if I could take the homer angle, as a Steelers fan, there's been a lot of talk about Sammy Coates. Steelers drafted him last year, a big wide receiver. It was almost as if they drafted him knowing Martavius Bryant was not on the up and up. He's been suspended for the year, and there's been a rush to acquire Sammy Coates with good reason. At the end of the last season, he flashed in some games and some opportunities in the playoffs. I'm looking to move him because I've seen mock drafts with the Steelers taking Michael Thomas, another big wide receiver. While I'm not 100% sure that the Steelers would go in that direction given their needs on defense, if you can move Sammy Coates, before another wide receiver steps in the first round, you have to do it. His value won't be any higher than it is right now. So I'm moving Sammy Coates. You could probably get a low first, maybe a high second for Sammy Coates based on the Steelers' offense and his performance at the end of last season. So I'm moving Sammy Coates.
I have Sammy Coates in one of my Dynasty leagues. I'm not going to get anything near the first for him. But, yeah, maybe we can join up here and figure out a way for me to give you Coates in a different league for a first-round pick. I don't know if my league's going to agree with that, but I kind of have him like maybe at the highest in like the mid to late second area. But, I mean, that's a kind of a good follow-up question. What kind of value would you expect out of Coates if you're selling right now?
Sammy Coates, maybe a late. I'd be surprised if anybody moved higher than a sec. The thing is, Dave might have his guys in Steeler Nation. They might be in a local league, and yeah, maybe Sammy Coates has that late first round value. So obviously, there's a lot of, you look at the Vikings. You and I know, whenever you have Vikings heavy or team heavy leagues, you can fleece people. I mean, those guys always have more value. But I would say for most leagues, if you can get a late second for Sammy Coates, you should have done that yesterday.
It's true that, I mean, that happens. The homer pick really does happen. So, well, thanks for that take on Sammy Coates. Speaking of Coates, that's all we got. So put on your coats and jump outside to the NFL draft if you're here. Join us down there. We're going to try to find a good spot to throw up a booth. If you're around town, come find us. I got a free t-shirt, Dynasty Trade Calculator for you. The first person that finds us gets a free t-shirt. It's a pretty sweet one. It's still got a tag on it. I'm not even kidding about it. It's awesome. I should have grabbed it for this shot, but come find us. Follow us on Twitter at FF Dynasty Trades. Follow the hashtag DTC NFL Draft. We'll give you as many hot takes as we can. We're going to do some live streaming stuff, Periscope style for you. We're going to give you as much information as we possibly can. Jump on to Twitter and keep an eye on all of our tweets and all of our stuff. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, John Moser behind the scenes. We love you guys. Keep an eye. Bye.